He's headed for second base. How about that? Not wasting any time. Who said he's nervous?
I was nervous on the on-deck circle, but once I was walking up to the plate, I just started to gain a little bit more confidence, just go up there and just know I'm here for a reason, and then I was just trying to be aggressive that about. When I touched first, I was like, dang, I got the first hit out of the way. I was really happy. I didn't know the double celebration, though, so I got teased on that a little bit.
All right, he said he was nervous. All right, Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and Sportsnet Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. What a debut for Will Wagner. First pitch he sees the major leagues. He deposits it in the right center field gap, ends up a 3-for-4 day in his debut with that double and RBI, run scored as well. A couple of nice plays at second base as well as the Blue Jays take game one against the Angels 4-2. Bowden Francis also with his best start of his career, giving up just one run, one hit over 7, striking out 8. But Kev, the headline item, Will Wagner, perhaps not the headliner of the Yusei Kikuchi deal. That was Jake Bloss. And another part of it that was already in the major leagues in Joey Loperfido. But
yeah,
how do you like that for a debut?
Well, let's not get crazy. I think I got a couple of hits in my debut, and I've been sitting here with Jeff Blair for like the last 10 years. So, let's not get crazy. But look, you'd rather get that hit and get those couple of hits out of the way so you can just sort of take the pressure off. And, I mentioned this yesterday. Strengths are contact, baseball IQ, or sure-handedness, and sort of the ball hit right at you, right? That ball up the middle that he had to do that little mini dive and jump up. And, you can see he doesn't have the greatest of arm strength, but it's that sort of how quickly you get to your feet, how quickly you release the baseball, right? You're sort of following your throw. Like all that baseball IQ that when his dad was on our show, and he's going to come on again today here in a few minutes, was talking about, right? He's never going to be outsmarted. So, yeah, it's nice. That little simple approach. It's a level swing. I'm sure the Khakis are just throwing things at their TV set, dreading to see him hit because, he doesn't have a launch angle swing. He's got a level swing, which you just allow him to put more balls in play, which is a good thing, right? You're not asking him to bridge people. You're asking him to occasionally hit an RBI double in the gap. So, yeah, you like that, right? The timing of that little hand thing he does with his leg kick was on point last night and didn't look like he was overswinging. I know in my first game, my first at bat,
2 for 5,
I wanted to back leg city everything. Like I was just letting it eat, tongue hanging out, slobber, and just everything. And he didn't seem to be that way, right? It's, I think the players nowadays, he is 26, so he is a little bit more grown up, and obviously we know who his dad is. So, it was nice to see that. I think, again, you're a Blue Jays fan. It's always nice to see a kid come up. He's a kid, I guess, still, right? 26 is still a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
in comparison.
Absolutely. So,
to us.
He comes up and he does things, and he looked like a big leaguer. I know it's one day, but, why can't we toot his horn for a little while? And hopefully he comes back today and tomorrow and has some, some consistent at-bats and –
can't keep him out of the lineup now.
Absolutely not.
Fourth Blue Jay in franchise history to have 3 hits in his debut, joining J.P. Arencibia, who had a couple of home runs in his debut. Pat Borders, World Series MVP. How do you like that? Danny Ainge, who did some things, most of the things that he did outside of the game of baseball. But, yeah, pretty good debut. You mentioned you were 2 for 5 in your debut. You brought it. I was going to bring it up, but thank you for you to bring it up. Did you swing at the first pitch, though? Because that was I don't know. What do you think about that as a philosophy? You step in your first major league at bat, hacking at the first pitch.
Yeah, it looks to me like he's hunting heater. I like that part of it, right? I mean, the Jays, as we know, as a lineup as a whole, don't like the fastball a lot. And I always was under the impression that if you're going to hit a heater consistently, you got to be looking for it, right? You got to get athletic, quick, being allowed to get the foot down and just, allow everything to be where it's needs to be to beat the guy to the spot. So I like that part of it. He got a good pitch to hit. He was ready to hit it, and he hit it where it was supposed to go. I mean, that's real simple, right? Because he can with a simple approach. So, good. This is, what I like about that? I think it's a little competition now, right?
Yeah.
He looks a little bit like Horwitz.
Well, I was going to ask you, they play the same position. So he's played a little third base in the minor leagues. You mentioned the arm strength. There was one of those plays that was nice up the middle, but it didn't quite make it to first base. Horwitz made a nice little play at first base, scoop it out. Like I said, he's played a little third base. There's an obvious need at that position for this Blue Jays team.
I'll get crazy.
Well, I mean, don't you want to see him before the end of the season play that position, see if he's capable there?
No.
So you don't want to see him at all?
I don't know, because, even we had Buck on yesterday, and he's talking about the people that he talked to said, he's more of a right side of the infield guy than a left side, right? It's
okay.
Again, you got to make your evaluations quicker here, right? If you're going to sell to us and the fan base that you're running this thing back, like, you got to hurry up and find out, right? And I think they already know maybe a little bit just by the way Buck talked, and use your eyeballs, right? You can tell again, you got to have a little bit better arm strength. Can he throw a ball flat-footed from the hole at third base? Did it look to you that way last night?
Did not.
There you go. So, you can eliminate that quick, right? I mean, stay with what he does well. Don't force him to do something because, quite frankly, the last couple of years, you've been, not the greatest at getting some things done that needed to be getting done. So that's the part of it, I think, that, you can't have everybody at the big league level all at the same time. So I just like the competition factor.
So is that it? How you manage playing time? Because Spencer Horwitz has been a revelation, right? Since he's moved over to second base, since they found him a home, since they realized, the lack of power, that profile plays a lot better at second base than it does at first base. Of course, yesterday Vlad was DHing, so Horwitz is playing first base.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just pure, hey, who's going? They're playing second base? Because I think ultimately you'd like to still see more from Spencer Horwitz, and he hasn't done anything to lose that job, but here comes the young kid you'd like to learn more of. Like, how do you manage and they're both left-handed hitters. Like, how do you manage the playing time between those two?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're seeing a more of a Ernie Clement playing third because of the way he plays defense, the way he can hit different quadrants. He's right-handed, the bat-to-ball skills. You've seen that a little bit more long-term, right? I mean, if you're going to make an argument for one of the guys, I would think it'd be more for Ernie than it would for a Will Wagner. So, don't get crazy.
Okay.
I mean, it's a really good day, right? He's having a lot of fun. Like, he looked like he knew what he was doing. He didn't look like he's out of place. Like, it was just, I'm going to be myself. It looks the same. I'm going to go up there. As soon as I walk away from the on-deck circle, it's just like Groundhog Day. It's the same old thing. I'm going to go up there and put my ace swing on it as many times as I can, and hopefully I stay in the big part of the field, which he did, right? It was the all-speed pitches he's hitting up the middle, and it was the fastball. Now, again,
and he's working some counts,
well,
too.
He did hit a ball off a lefty pretty hard, too, big part of the field. But you're still waiting to see if he can hit velocity, right? I mean, them pitches were low 90s instead of high 90s. So there's some still things. Again, I get back to that. I've been working with Jeff for the last 10 years, right? So even though I got 2 hits my first game.
Yeah, don't play that. Don't downplay that. It's a pretty good outcome.
You'd rather get 3 hits than not getting any hits.
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah.
And, I mentioned the other 3 guys in Blue Jays history that have had 3 hits in their debut. Some of those guys carved out nice little major league careers, including one of them ended up being a World Series MVP. All right, Bowden Francis, unreal yesterday. Granted, not the 27 Yankees he was playing in Anaheim.
One of the worst offenses in baseball.
It's the 2024 Anaheim Angels. But here are the numbers over his last 3 starts, Kev. 17 and 2/3 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, 17 strikeouts now. So that's an ERA just over 3. And the last start was against a pretty feeble offense in the Angels, but the previous 2 were against a really good offense in the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, this guy is obviously at least starting pitching depth for next season. Is he more than that? Like, is he playing his way into a potential rotation role going into 2025 at the back end of the rotation?
Yeah, I don't think absolutely. I mean, he ain't one of your first 4 guys because they already have those, right? Yariel Rodriguez will be your 4th guy. Then they're now looking for depth at the 5 spot. And if Bowden can show them that he can command a fastball in the black, right? If he's outer third, inner third, and a little bit up, that's getting hammered. He just don't throw it hard enough. And obviously the hitter will tell you that, he's got to locate a little bit better. Last night it was that way. I think routine is a big deal for him. When he is sort of getting in the flow of what they're asking him to do, instead of saying, you're going to start one time and then you're going to follow this guy. Well, he's a giant dude. Giant dudes tend to have trouble keeping it all connected and staying in your lane and having a great finish, right? And last night will show you when he's got a great finish, ball goes where he wants it to go. I just like the way he uses his fastball. First 34 pitches, 26 of those were fastballs, right? The first 70 pitches, 36 fastball, 10 split fingers, 8 curves, 8 sliders, 8 sinkers. Are you hearing a theme, right? You establish fastball, right? You keep it in the zone, which it was in the zone the first 70 pitches, 72% of the time, right? So it gets me in swing mode. And now I'm sort of balanced with my other attack, right? And because I can be balanced, now I'm unpredictable, and I get dudes starting to swing, and now I can be doing with that secondary stuff, the split finger, the curve, the slider, and the sinker with whatever I want to do with it, because now I've established on the black with my fastball to different quadrants, get them in swing mode. the home run he gave up was a good pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Tip your hat to a left-handed hitter who's been around a little while. Like that's in off the plate.
Blue Jay starters have allowed 2 earned runs or fewer. This from Sportsnet stats in 7 of their last 8 starts, posting the 4th best starting rotation ERA since August 4th. Not exactly the biggest sample, but it's something. Yeah. The Mariners, obviously, with their incredible pitching staff, lead the way over that span. The Blue Jays 4th with an ERA under 3. Blue Jays still 21st, though, Kevin, baseball, with the starters ERA of 4.3. Like, this was supposed to be the major strength of this team because clearly it wasn't supposed to be the offense. Yeah. Clearly has not been the offense. But, yeah, underrated part of this season has been the overall performance of the starting rotation. Blue Jays do have 3 starters coming back next year, right? We got
4.
Yeah, well, okay, so you're including Yariel Rodriguez in the mix. He's making
$32 million to be the number 4 guy next year.
Okay, so it raises the question: how many starters do you need to go out and get this offseason, right? Like at least one major league starter.
That's not what I'm getting.
You're not getting one major league starter.
No.
So then Bowden Francis is battling with Jake Bloss.
Yeah, there you go. Like you'll have a couple of guys that you can, the 5 guy. There's not too many teams in baseball that have 5 elite dudes who are going to give you a quality start every time, right? The 5 guy is just trying to give the lineup a chance to score some runs, and then you hand it over to maybe a long guy, or you're at least getting it closer to your 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guy. Hopefully, fingers crossed that they have all 3 of those next year. Again, this is the heavy lifting part, right? For me, they need a closer. Mm-hmm. So you start from the 9th inning and work your way backwards. If you need a closer, can you get a closer, an extra starter, and 3 somewhat close to aircraft carriers that have to go in your line, boy. And then don't forget, you need a backup catcher that's legit, been around a long time, who can push the button and always have to look over there at Petey to tell him what to do. So, yeah, I mean, again, this is putting your boy. Like
you said, it's easy. You said that it's an easy fix for next year.
I said there's lots of options for you to choose from going into the offseason. There's no excuses. Like, I think that's where they're at, right? If the payroll's still there, which, we have nothing to believe it's not.
Yeah.
And there will be a little bit of money coming off the books with what you've done trade-wise. I just think it's a lot. Now, if you run into somebody and you could trade a Lo Profito or, whoever else you want to trade to try and get an extra starter, more power to you. I mean, that's sort of, I would think, probably that's the way they're going to get their catcher.
Boy.
And if you can try and work it out that's the way you're going to get a number 5 or a number 4 guy who can eat some innings, more power to you. But for me, first and foremost, it's got to be a couple of grown men. Grown men got to be walking in that clubhouse.
I don't disagree.
Whatever the first day of spring training is.
No, I don't disagree as far as priorities. It's got to be the offense. It's got to be somebody.
Absolutely.
Middle of your order.
No question.
I think there's just it's a foolish job by this front office if they go into 2025 with both Bowden Francis and Yariel Rodriguez.
I think you're asking for a lot. You got to be realistic here. They can't make an entire team.
No, but I'm not asking for a top of the rotation starter.
They need an 8th and 9th inning guy. They need to get Jordan Romano healthy. They need another guy in the pen. I mean, is that Jimmy Garcia? Is that whoever else they want to try and go out and get? They need what we talked about offensively. You're trying to talk about where they're going to fit in defensively. You're asking a lot. It's not crazy here.
How much can you count on those 2 guys, though? If they're both
2 guys?
Rodriguez and Francis, who they don't trust Bowden Francis to throw more than 80 pitches right now, it seems. He threw 81 and didn't come out there again for the 8th.
Yeah,
and then
Yariel
Rodriguez.
Guys more than 81
okay,
for 3
but so you got 2 of those guys. I guess Yariel Rodriguez next year is like, different dude.
You got to remember he didn't pitch all last year. You got to remember that, right? He's trying to figure it out on the fly at the big league level, right? Like we've seen weather give him an issue. We've seen out of the stretch give him issue. We've seen he's had arm slot issues. Like, which pitch usage is best for him, right? We've had the khaki sort of getting in the way with the spin rate, right? Let natural cut take over. He keeps it in the zone longer. He's more competitive. That means it's a tougher take. That means he throws less pitches in an inning. That means he'll go deeper in games. Like he's learning all this on the fly. So, yeah, look, they're trying to make sure they don't abuse that. They're trying to make sure, they get him happy and in a routine where, he's feeling frisky every time they hand the ball to him. That way, when spring training starts next year, here's big boy, go out there and get him.
Yep. There's a lot of ass on this team. There's a lot of work to be done this offseason. For me, I'd be throwing some money at somebody that can fill out that rotation as well, bumping maybe Bowden Francis down to the AAA rotation. Again, not the number one priority. Number one priority is the offense. I mean, speaking of first, also, Leo Jimenez hitting his first home run of the season. Looked like it was coming back there for a second, and Leo said as much when he saw it heading towards center field and Moniak going up with the glove.
You notice he's got real strong legs, right? And he uses them. I mean, that's a great swing starts from the ground up. I mean, the foundation is the most important part of that. I mean, it's rare that he is off balance. Now, occasionally they'll throw him a breaking ball with 2 strikes, and he looks a little off balance. He's a young kid. He's trying to learn how breaking balls look, where they start, what he's trying to not swing at. So, yeah, look, they got right now they got too many of those. You know, you got to figure out which one you think is a little step ahead of the other ones.
Yeah.
I think is what they're trying to figure out. And, you know, from what you've seen, is any one guy standing out to you just eye-popping that you must, that's a Ernie Clement? Yeah, I think that's just Steady Eddie. Mm-hmm. But it's not, he must play every day.
No.
No, if you get somebody who can play, you're going to be the guy coming off the bench who's right-handed because he can have velocity, and now all of a sudden he's in an athletic position to do what he can do off a breaking ball. So, yeah, again, this is where the coaching staff that they were saying that they had confidence to start the season is going to earn their money.
Leo Jimenez has put himself in a spot, though, where, you suffer another injury or perhaps a trade at that position.
I win the American League East with him playing shortstop?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Then
he's more on our radar now than he was before the season, at least, or at least going into next season.
Conversation.
Zach Pop with a scoreless outing yesterday, and boy, listen to Caleb Joseph on the broadcast, and we'll talk to him later on after 5 o'clock today, talking about that two-seamer, right, and looking at
can't be a two-seamer. That's what Caleb was talking about. It's got to be a sinker.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a guy that throws upper 90s, that at times has looked like a capable arm that could pitch maybe at the back end of this bullpen. It's been a rough second half for him. What do you see as the future for Zach Pop?
Yeah, he's an overthinker. I mean, everybody I've talked to about him, they say they're trying to get him to not think. I mean, you know, his stuff is off the charts. It's just lanes where he's starting the stuff, and you know, it's just sort of when I get 2 quick outs, why am I throwing sliders to a 8 or 9 hole hitter? It's good, very confusing. Like it's like it was last night. It's just like, dude, I mean, you got 2 outs with your sinker. Mm-hmm. Keep throwing that, obviously, or it's a two-seamer. It's right now that's what it is, right? Because he's too much on the side of it instead of a little bit more on top of it. On top of it allows you to drive down and through it. When you're on the side of it, you're playing catch-up with your hand and your shoulder and your eyes, and the ball tends to keep sideways, and it looks more like a sweeper going arm side than it should looking like what on the clock, 11-4, which is what he's trying to do at 97. Now, he consistently starts and continues to get that 11-4, then you got an argument for back into the bullpen, but right now he's a 6th-inning guy.
I know who pitched at the back end of the bullpen.
6th inning.
Our next guest. 422 saves, 8th most in baseball history, owned by our next guest, 7-time All-Star, also proud Papa.
Oh,
Billy Wagner joining us on the line. Billy, how's it going?
Oh, it's good. It's very good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. All right, what was it like yesterday? I mean, I guess there was some difficulty getting in the building, but when you finally did, what did it feel like to watch your kid come up with 3 hits in his debut?
Well, it's funny when what a big day it was for Will and stuff. I hated to text him like, "Hey, buddy, did you leave those tickets?" But I mean, what do you expect? First day in the big leagues, all the interviews, all the things that he was going through. We were just very fortunate to be here and see him before we went to the ballpark, and just the nerves and enjoy that experience and share it with him. I was happy to get there when I got there. So it was a great experience for all of us.
Okay, take us through it. Now, you've ran out of the bullpen against some big-time hitters and some big-time innings. What's the difference in that and you walking into the stadium and seeing your son warming up down the left field line? Left field line. How fired up were you? How nervous were you?
Well, I wasn't nervous. It's pretty surreal, though. I think my wife and his fiance were just about to have issues, but they were so excited and nervous. But for me, I wasn't nervous for him. I told him, I said, the biggest thing is enjoy. You've been doing this all your life. This is what you've wanted to do all your life. This is, I wish I'd have had some of this advice, but I said, just enjoy this. Smile a lot. Just enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy the game. I said, this is the icing on the cake. Go play. Now it's about winning a championship and go out there and enjoy what you're doing. And, last night me and his mother were talking about just how much fun it looked like he was having. And, of course, when you go 3 for 4 with a big diving play up the middle, let me tell you some things. It makes the game look easy. But, it just looked like he had a lot of joy and excitement in the game. And, that team, they played well.
Yeah, I know how much relief I had when I got my first hit. But take us through what you think Will was going through after he got his first hit. How important do you think it was for him to see that first pitch? Looked to me like he's ready to hit. Like that's sort of the way you talked the last time you were on this show. And I asked you about your son. You said he's ready to hit. Looked exactly the way you sort of explained that. How important you think that was to get that first one out of the way?
Oh, I don't. Without a doubt. I mean, it's like the first play too. I mean, the world comes off your shoulder a little bit. Like, oh, okay, I can do this. There's a lot more to come for him, but getting that first hit out of the way is a big sigh of relief. Getting that first play, big sigh of relief. But I think it's just, I think he said it best in a couple interviews. He's been in these locker rooms. He's been here preparing for something like this. So, it's not going to overwhelm him to be at this point. It's just he's got to go out and enjoy the ebbs and flows of this game. And, we had bets that he was going to take the first pitch, to be honest with you.
Really?
We were thinking because we're always giving him a hard time because he reminds us of Bobby Abreu, and because we spent a lot of time with Bobby in Houston, a lot of time with Bobby in Philadelphia, and in a lot of ways he hits like Bobby, and Bobby was notorious at taking 90% of the first pitch fastballs, but on that 10%, he would hurt you, and so I think sometimes as a pitcher you get a little worried about that. And I think yesterday was one of that 10% where he pulled the trigger, but he a lot of times he's notorious for getting into that count and working a count and figuring out that getting on base. And so, we were very excited as a family to be able to experience it and know that that's off his chest now. Now going out there and stuff, and of course, it was fun to read all the tweets about how he's got more hits than I do, so I can't go to the house talking about who the best hitter is anymore. So that kind of stinks, but that was a great moment.
Yeah, I think Blue Jays fans would take Bobby Abreu as a good outcome for your kid.
Absolutely.
That would be pretty good. Billy, you mentioned that he has the benefit of spending a childhood in and out of major league clubhouses. Obviously, you didn't have that. I was going through your game logs and your first appearance in the major leagues. I don't know if you remember it, but you threw 6 pitches. That's all you needed. You got 1 out. Can you take us through what you were thinking making your major league debut?
I don't remember how I got to the mound. And, I'm facing Rico Bronya, and, the knock on me at that point was just, can he throw enough strikes? And so, I remember throwing the first pitch strike, and at that time it was, I hadn't seen a lefty that threw quite like I did. And so that whole experience was just, don't embarrass yourself. And so, and it's kind of like what I told Will. The good thing about your debut is, you know what, this is the deep breath, enjoy that day now, so, but for me, it went so quick because I only faced one hitter.
Yeah.
And that was the only guy I faced when I got called up. So, unfortunately, it's a much better debut for Will, and that's what I got to enjoy so much.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he's got in store tonight, because you can't take that guy out of the lineup. He's hitting 750 as a major leaguer. You got to pencil that guy into the lineup.
Well, I said if he'd hit the home run, if he goes deep on his 4th AB, I'm like, buddy, I don't know what to tell you, but you should retire. You might want to retire. That's something that's it doesn't happen very often. But I tell you, his at bats were good. He didn't look overwhelmed. His defense was good, and I know, he's been around this game. We've talked about it quite a bit about how expect there are going to be ups and downs. You're going to have some. You're going to have some tough goes. And I said the epitome of a good Major League Baseball player is how he overcomes it, but learns how to handle those ebbs and flows. And I said the lower, the less time you can have the deep falls, the more that you'll be fine. And he's a contact hitter. He's a double type guy. And I said, you know what? You know how to do this, And, I'm excited for him. I know he's got, hopefully, right now I told him they're 2,997 hits away from the Hall of Fame. So I said, let's see if we can get you there.
Yeah. Zoning in on it.
Awesome.
Billy, congrats. What a moment.
We're happy for you, buddy.
For your whole family. Awesome. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. It'll be fun either way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's Billy Wagner. 422 saves, not too shabby. 8th most in baseball history. Oh, I forgot to mention Kevin Barker 1 for 2 career against Billy
Absolutely. It's the funny part about that is Billy lives about 40 minutes from where I grew up, Tazewell.
No way.
Virginia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's a very small town. You blink, you'd be through it before you know it. But that's sometimes great things come from really small places. So good for his dad. Good for Will. I mean, I don't believe Billy when he said he wasn't nervous with his son. I mean, I would be, man, because I can remember my dad and my mom. They were. And
you had everybody
my mom
in attendance?
had her. Well, no, it's just the three of us. It was my sister and my mom and dad. But I can remember my dad was nowhere to be found like he normally is, out walking around. He was down the left field line, right field line, because he was afraid to watch me play and hit. And my mom was, had her hands in her over her face and hiding her face. So that's wonderful. I mean, that's the beauty of baseball. It's so cool that. Just you get to go watch your son kind of do that, and the realization that he's finally made it and all the hard work's paid off. So pretty cool. Hopefully, competition's a beautiful thing. It's going to bring the best out of one of these guys. And hopefully one of these guys pans out the way the Blue Jays want him to.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what your last name is. You got to perform, right? Maybe it can help you get a leg up and get you some opportunities that others didn't, but it doesn't matter. Now it's time for the rubber to meet the road, and in one game it has for Will Wagner.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk to Tim Kurkjian of ESPN as Blair and Barker continues. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair at Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. That was cool to talk to Billy Wagner about his kid's debut. Blue Jays are the #1 team with second-generation baseball players.
Yeah, there's no way I believe him that he wasn't nervous. No chance.
Imagine. Yeah.
He's such a liar.
I watched my kid play house league hockey.
I went to watch my kid play tennis the other day in some tournament against a 9-year-old, and I was couldn't even watch. It's
I can't imagine.
Terrified.
Anyways,
destroy that kid. That was awful.
Yeah.
I should never speak that way.
Don't do that.
No,
people know who you are. All right. Now time for our MLB Insider, brought to you by Miller Lite. Today's insider, the great Tim Kurkjian of ESPN, also host of Is This a Great Game or What? Podcast hosted with his son. Tim, we're talking about fathers and sons with Will Wagner yesterday making his debut. We just talked to Billy Wagner. It must be an incredible honor to get to host a podcast with your kid.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's the coolest thing ever. And among the great parts is he's a wizard with technology. So I drive from my house in Maryland every Monday to tape it at his house, because it's always better when you're sitting next to your co-host. But I go partly because I'm afraid if the technology breaks down and I'm all by myself, a little tired old 67-year-old man, I'm not going to be able to fix it. But if I'm sitting next to him, everything's okay. And he's so smart. He's so good at so many things, and I'm so bad at so many things. So we make a good team.
Tim, how hard is it not to give a lot of advice? I try to do things with my son as much as I can, and I'm always poking at him and saying, you need to do this better, and you need to go over here. I'm wiser. I've been living longer than you have. Tim, you've been doing this forever, and you're tremendous at it. How do you sort of, equal that out, balance that out, and just have fun at it and not overwhelm your son with it?
Yeah, I won't, because, again, he's so much better than I am at a million different things that when I know more about baseball than him, and I should, because it's the only thing I know. I don't know anything about anything else other than basketball and sitcoms from the 60s. That's it for me. But when I see he asks a question, not inappropriately, but if there's a better way to ask it, I will pass it along. But I'm just not, it's not my nature to say, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? I told you better than that. It doesn't work that way. It never has.
Well, so the Blue Jays lost one of those second-generation baseball players when they DFA'd Cav and Biggio, but now they get another one in Will Wagner, joining Dalton Varsho, Bo Bichette, and, of course, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And it's worked to varying degrees of success. But, Tim, do you view the Blue Jays as this team that's like kind of at the forefront of, hey, let's think about bloodlines a little bit as we're also evaluating the player?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in this, fellas, and I think I'm very much in the minority. But when you have a dad who played in the big leagues, let's face it, you are born with a little bit more than, say, I was born with. Even though, by the way, my dad was a really good player, and my two brothers are in the Hall of Fame for baseball at Catholic University. Not the point. The point is, when your dad's a big leaguer, you're around the game at times, which really helps. You're given a genetic boost, and all you got to do then is work at it to bring it out. So, sure, I would lean towards drafting someone who's the son of a former major leaguer, because you got to think he got a head start that a lot of other people didn't.
Tim, what do you make of the Blue Jays this year? And do you believe the front office can sort of turn this round in a hurry and be competitive going into next season?
It's been a disappointing season. There's no way around that. They're 9 games under 500. They've been outscored by like almost 90 runs. Their pitching hasn't been nearly as good as we thought it would. And their offense, we've been saying this for a year, fellas. What's wrong with the offense? This is the offense. This is the best that they have. So I think they can turn this around quicker than other people believe. I think that starting pitching has a chance to be much better next year. And I'm in the vast minority on this too, but I'm glad they didn't trade Vladimir Guerrero. We've seen how good he's been here lately. He's having a very good season. He's 25 years old, and he's got 150 homers. The only other Blue Jay that has ever come close, it wasn't at age 25, is Fred McGriff, who had 90 homers. That's how far ahead Vlad Guerrero Jr. is than any other Blue Jay at this age when it comes to hitting it out of the ballpark. So I think they can turn it around next year, but some work obviously has to be done.
You think they can sign Vladdy, or should they sign Vladdy?
I think they should sign Vladdy. I think when you have a star player, and I think he's not a superstar player, but he's really good. And I think he's starting to find it again. I think when you have somebody like that, and he's that age with this kind of track record, and he wants to stay, from what I could tell, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. Will Wagner played his first major league game. He is older than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because most people are. And Vlad,
we forget how young he is.
He's got like a half decade of major league experience. So the Blue Jays do play in a tough division, though, Tim. I was looking at some of these numbers today when it comes to the American League Central, and specifically the White Sox. And, hey, Blue Jays did their job against the White Sox. They were 5-1 against Chicago. That's nothing close to what the Royals have done. The Royals are 12-1 against the White Sox, of course, playing 13 times within their division. They're 500 against everybody else, Tim. We know it's a little more balanced schedule now. You do play everybody in baseball and only 13 games against your own division. That's a huge advantage, though, for all those teams in the Central. I mean, I guess it's kind of a once-in-a-generation White Sox team where they're going to have 120 losses. But should we be looking at maybe even making the schedule even more balanced than it is?
Well, I think eventually we're going to go to where there are no divisions. We're just going to have leagues, and we're not going to have division winners. It's going to be the top 6 teams are going to make the playoffs, and you play everyone the same amount of time. Someday, and I'm not saying anytime soon, that's where we're going to end up. But, I just think it's a really aberrant season that the White Sox are this bad and a bunch of other teams are beating up on them to the extent where it's helping them in the playoffs. But this is how it works. It's cyclical. The Blue Jays at some point got some sort of advantage like this, even a few years ago when the Orioles were indescribably bad. So it works both ways.
Okay, Tim, I'll put you on the spot just a little bit. I think the Orioles will win. I think the Twins will win their division. I think the Astros will win their division. That, for me, would leave 5 different teams: the Yankees, the Guardians, the Mariners, Kansas City, and Boston. Out of those 5, you got to pick 3. Which 3 do you think's best for baseball, meaning that people would tune in to watch them? Not so much the team is better or, you like this player more. It's just that team is what's best for baseball. I would say you'd throw Yankees in there. And who would the other 2 teams be in your mind?
Yeah, the Yankees would be first because they're always good for baseball. Whether you love them or hate them, they're going to get some emotion from you. All right, I'm going to say the Royals making the playoffs is going to be good.
Yeah.
Because they won 56 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
To go from 56 victories to the playoffs in 1 year is just staggering. And I'll take the Guardians also, just so we can all say, yeah, we sure got that one right as we looked at that Central Division at the beginning. I had it all wrong. But if they go with a new manager, Stephen Vogt, who's never managed before and only coached 1 year in the major leagues, and they make the playoffs, I think that's good for the game. I root for really good stories, fellas. That's it. I don't root for any teams, any players, but it's a good story if the Royals make the playoffs and the Guardians make the playoffs. So those would be the 2 I would take along with the Yankees.
Okay, you mentioned stories. How about throw that over the National League? Sort of the same question. I got the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Brewers winning their division. And in these teams, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, Atlanta, the Mets, if you got to throw St. Louis and the Giants in there, you can. But at least those first 4 teams and the 2 teams in Atlanta and the Mets. I'll throw it to you again. Out of the 4, I don't want to throw St. Louis and the Giants in there. I just don't think they're that good. But out of those 4, and Atlanta especially and the Mets especially, what's best for baseball?
Well, again, having a New York team in is good. And for this reason alone, the Mets were the worst team in baseball in the month of May. And somehow they gathered themselves out of that horrendous 30-day period and figured out how to make the playoffs. So that would be a really good story if they did that. It would be really good if the Padres made the playoffs also. They traded away Juan Soto, who's arguably the best hitter in the game, and people said, oh, they've taken a step backwards here. And instead, they're like 17-3 the second half of the year. If they were to make the playoffs, that would really be good. And the Diamondbacks stunk about a month ago, and now they're the hottest team along with San Diego the second half. And this just shows, as corny as it sounds, the heart of a really good team here. That team made the playoffs, and everyone said, oh, it was a fluke. They made it to the World Series. Well, they have pulled it back together, and if they go to the playoffs after a really difficult start, that's a really good story too.
Yep.
Tim, there are some good teams in Major League Baseball. It doesn't feel like there's any great teams in Major League Baseball. The Yankees were tied for the best record in baseball. They just lost by 10 to the White Sox yesterday, so I'd say it's a hard it's a hard one to swallow if you're claiming the Yankees are the best team in baseball. I think we looked at the Dodgers and what they did this offseason with Shohei Ohtani and Tyler Glasnow and them being just a juggernaut. It hasn't happened. Injuries have been a big part of that. Are the Dodgers kind of the World Series favorite in hiding now, especially that Mookie Betts is back? Is that the shining North Star that everybody's looking at?
I'm not even sure about that. I don't see one shining star out of the teams in the playoffs now, which is great. What it means is there's no dominant team. There's no team to beat. Like, the only way this team's going to lose is if it beats itself. I don't see that. And I think that's really healthy for the game. We could have 12 teams in the playoffs, and 10, 11, maybe even 12 all have a chance to go to the World Series, which can't happen in the other sports. Do I like the Dodgers still? Absolutely. But they have got to get their pitching straight by October 1st, and that's not going to be easy with Yamamoto still hurt. All sorts of pitching injuries. Walker Buehler, we're just not so sure. And by the way, fellas, the verb used today in the paper, on the White Sox beating the Yankees was the White Sox stunned the Yankees. It was one baseball game that a bad team won, and we use the word stunned. This flies in the face of everything I've ever told people. The beauty of baseball is a bad team beats a good team all the time. But last night, the White Sox stunned the Yankees. You know, stunning is an NBA upset where Jordan loses at home. Doesn't happen when the White Sox beat the Yankees, but I guess the word was kind of apropos.
Yeah, they went like 1 for 18 with runners in scoring position, and they walked 11 times, and they still lost by 10 runs. You know, it's like when you throw the Yankees into the World Series talk, you think there's no chance that a 29-win team can beat them by 10 runs. But that's the beauty of baseball. Hey, Tim, can we stop even having the conversation about the MVPs in both leagues? It's a slam dunk, right? Ohtani and Judge. There's no other guys.
All right. I think they're both going to win. I think they both should win. I would vote for both of them right now. However, let's just say Bobby Witt goes completely ballistic, leads the league in hitting by a wide margin, goes 30-30, which he's going to do, and he single-handedly takes a 56-win team into the playoffs. And he's doing it while playing shortstop. If Judge has a bad 6 weeks, which is not going to happen, and the Yankees stumble and maybe, they're going to make the playoffs, I think you could make a case for Bobby Witt winning the MVP. But I repeat, I think both of those guys are going to win, and I think they should win.
Yep.
Yeah. We could have another 60-homer campaign from Aaron Judge.
Crazy.
The podcast is this a great game or what? This week, Jeff Frank Kerr on the show.
Awesome.
Tim, we'll be listening.
You're great, Tim.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, fellas. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
See you later.
Sounds good. That was our MLB Insider, brought to you by Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller
Never
time.
met him in person.
I have. I got to interview him down at Rogers Center.
How nice is he? I know he's very small.
You fit him in your pocket.
Yeah, my wife always says how nice he is and how he always goes out of his way to say hi to her, give her a hug. And he's like the nicest human alive. And then, he just comes on and gives the answers that he gives on our show. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have guys like that in baseball.
Yeah, he loves baseball.
Yeah.
And you can tell every time you talk to him about baseball. You mentioned that Yankees game yesterday. Yeah, 11 walks the Yankees had. They were 2 for 18. You didn't give them enough credit.
Sorry.
They were 2 for 18 with runners in scoring position. It was also the first time since September 27th, 1934, that a team with the worst record in Major League Baseball defeated the team with the best record by at least 10 runs in July or later. So that's a lot of caveats, but it's only happened twice in the last 100 years, and yesterday was one of those instances.
Change your mind that you think now the Yankees can't win the World Series because they got beat by the worst team in the history of the sport?
No, it doesn't, but it is. Hey, it's a remarkable moment for Grady Sizemore. Hey, what are the odds that that's the highlight of Grady Sizemore's first year as Major League Manager?
And
I think
only
it's pretty
year,
high.
maybe.
Yeah,
could be the only year.
I
don't know. I think that shows you it's one game. I mean, you show up, things that just don't go the right way. Things can go south in a hurry, and you take a team a little lightly, and you just don't have the at bats that you're supposed to be having against guys that, quite frankly, you should always be having good at bats against. But I think it does sort of tell you, sort of hammer home about what the Yankees don't do well. Like, they have some flaws, right? Yeah. They're just not a perfect team on any side of the ball, right? It's just not like they can go there and hang their hat on one certain thing other than the 2 dudes that hit the top of the order. Those are the 2 guys they can actually do that with a consistent basis. But enters everything else. And, I think that's what Tim was talking about. There's just not one team you can point your finger at. And that's sort of why this leaves the door open for the Astros.
Yeah.
I mean, the Astros just sort of trying to fight through it. The Mariners can't get out of their own way. Like, they didn't run away with the West, and now they've opened the door, and now the Astros are in first place. And
what a waste of a season.
They're going to get Tucker back. And I mean, it's sort of the same way with the Jays, right? We've been talking about the last couple of years you got that starting pitching, and
at least they made the playoffs.
You had that bullpen last year, and so there's a lot of flawed teams. It's going to be very intriguing to see how it plays out. And even the Orioles is not a perfect team. So
no, not by a long shot.
And that, again, turns it right back around to the Astros. Like, they get Tucker back, and they maybe get Verlander back when it matters the most, and giving him the ball maybe in game 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want that? So, and you got the closer you got. It got an 8th inning as a closer. Like, you got some dudes that the lights are not going to be as bright as they are on some other teams. So it's going to be intriguing.
I will not be doubting the Houston Astros, considering what they've done over the last half-decade.
They could go to Philadelphia and beat the Phillies, right? Like, that's not going to bother them. They could go to Milwaukee. They could, they could go to the Dodgers. Like, it's like not a big deal for them to go on the road and take the abuse.
Well, them against the Dodgers in a series that we look differently upon post-fact, but in the moment, that was one of the best World Series I can remember, going 7 games. Those first 6 games with the Astros and Dodgers was unreal.
And maybe having this little time off if you're Tucker because of the woes he's had in the playoffs, sort of maybe will put some pressure on him when he does come back, and his season's going to start when the playoffs start, right? So, look, that's a pretty good bat to get back. Big time of the season. That's something else that's going to give a headache for a manager and some opposing khakis.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch how this plays out. Not one team.
No, there isn't. I do think it's the Dodgers, though. I mean, Mookie Betts is back. He hit a home run. I know the pitching staff has been...
Don't like their bullpen?
It's been decimated, no question. Shohei Ohtani's season is just stupid. I mean, we talked about the home run and the National League leading 36. I think it was going underrated and underreported.
Stolen bases.
33!
Yeah.
He's got 33 stolen bases, a career high already. He's only been caught 4 times. Yeah. He's going to have a 40-40 season. He might have a 50-50 season.
Well, that's why it's going to make it easier for people to vote for him. So because he don't play in the field, right? Like, thing, can a DH win an MVP? Well, he does when he's a 40-40 or maybe a 45-45 guy. Like, that's
he's not a one-dimensional player.
Hitting over 300, right?
He is at the moment hitting
crazy.
298.
Oh, there you go. So he's winning it to a little slump. How dare he? But it's still like, there's some good players and just the things he does line to line. You can count them on one hand on dudes that can hit homers line to line.
Yep.
It's Yellowstone. Like, he could hit it out of Yellowstone.
Yep.
And he's one of them, and it's fun to watch. Like, the homers he hits the other way is like a right-handed power hitter would hit.
Yeah. Hey, you asked him the tough questions that you didn't answer. Like, who do you think is best for baseball? I think the Red Sox in the playoffs, potential Red Sox-Yankees postseason series.
I think that next year would be it. Do you really care about the Red Sox this year? No pressure on them. Like, it's like, do you really want to watch this Red Sox?
I don't know.
Is the rivalry, does it even matter now?
Okay, so the last series they played, it was during the Yankees. The Yankees were sliding pretty significantly, and it, for the first time for me, like a number of years, had some juice to it. Like, I did feel a return to something similar to, boy, I know it's now going on 2 decades ago, but I think there's something there potentially between the Yankees and Red Sox. You're right, though. There'd be no pressure on the team that was expected to be one of the worst in baseball.
Yeah, like the Texas Diamondbacks World Series. I mean, that's a tough watch. Like, that's no offense to either one of those teams, either one of those nice fan bases, but like, you're hoping for like a Astros Phillies or a Astros Dodgers or a Yankees Phillies or a Yankees Dodgers or like. Even the Orioles you can throw in there. Like, you want some hatred. Yeah. Like, you're wanting a little bit of that. Don't dig in. Like, a little bit of swag. Like, a little bit of pushing each other around. Like, the Phillies, they try to be bullies.
Yeah.
That fan base, they think they're the greatest fan base, which, okay. But it's like.
Phillies are a draw.
Yeah. Like, you just want to tune in and watch a little hatred, right? Maybe somebody will chuck one at somebody's head and somebody will get in a fight. That's never a bad thing in the playoffs. So, do you want to watch like a Mariners Brewers? Like, hey, that's, so that's why I tried to mix it up and ask him in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think he answered the best way he could. Like, we just haven't seen like the bullies on the block meeting up at the biggest times of the year. And maybe we're going to see it this year.
I would take the 2 MVPs meeting in the World Series, and the Yankees and the Dodgers. Aaron Judge versus Shohei Ohtani is an absolute dream matchup. By the way, the defending World Series champion Rangers now have the exact same record as the Toronto Blue Jays, if you can believe that.
Yeah, I can. That's why it's almost impossible to repeat. Like, and again, it gets back to that. Bruce Bochy's one of the best managers I've ever known.
Yeah.
managers don't mean as much as everybody says they do. I mean, they do in the playoffs when it matters the most, right? Taking that guy out at the right time. But got to have good players.
No question.
Yep.
All right, Blue Jays continuing their series in Anaheim. We'll talk to Caleb Joseph next as Blair and Barker continues. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Blue Jays continuing their series against the Angels tonight in Anaheim after taking game one, limiting the Angels just 2 hits. Boy, it's a tough season. Tough little decade for the Anaheim Angels. I mean, yeah.
Jay scored in the third inning?
That sounds right.
Yeah. It's like
they scored 4 in the third, and that was all she wrote.
That's it, buddy.
Angels putting up a little fight in the ninth inning. Joe Adell, former first-round pick, with the home run off Chad Green, who, again, is getting it done. I think he's 12 for 12 in save opportunities. The ERA under 2.
I'll ask you a question, though, and I've asked Jeff this a bazillion times. You give him the ball in the ninth inning, a game that matters against a good left-handed hitter. How's he get him out?
Well,
how's he get him out?
They'll figure out a way.
You think so?
I think that's a next season problem. But
that's an off-season problem.
Yep, no question about it. All right, Caleb Joseph yesterday on the broadcast was talking about. I think he said he had 48 career pass balls, something ridiculous.
56 or something.
Yeah, it's way off. 23 he's got in his career. Caleb Joseph joins us from Anaheim.
He's better than he thought.
Yeah, give yourself some credit.
Way to go, buddy.
Hey, if you set the bar really high, then you can only look smart. If I would have said 10 and it was actually 30, then you look like an idiot.
Yeah. What was going on back there? You guys were magnets for foul balls.
Yeah, I thought you were a catcher. Thought you made your living catching baseballs. You can't catch any one of them?
Hey, let me tell you this. If I had a bungee cord attached to my seat and I knew it was going to fall 5 stories down into the first row, I'd have been all over it. Had I been in Buck's seat on the left side, I promise you I would have barehanded 3 of them and most probably thrown at least one of them right back to Bowden Francis.
You know what's funny is you could tell who the oldest guy was. Buck was like, you could hear him bouncing around in there. Buck could care less. It's like, chance I'm moving. And you're back there jumping up and down. Yeah.
I saw it coming, and I was ready. Like, I went straight into spring mode. I almost pulled a hamstring trying to jump out of my chair to get this baseball. But we're a little bit off center in L.A., just to the right of center field, which for right-handed hitters, it is the perfect trajectory for that slightly angled foul ball. I mean, it is right at us. I'm going to catch one by the end of this series. Mark it down. Yeah,
I'm praying for you. What do you think Bowden Francis can take away from last night's start?
Everything. I told him after the game when we were walking to the bus, I said, buddy, that is a professional outing. You take that start and you put it on the iPad and you just put it in your locker and let it roll and roll and roll and roll. I thought Alejandro Kirk, that was the best game that I have seen him call in terms of pitches, sequences in a very long time. He had conviction with that fastball and he pitched to his size for me for one of the first times. He's a large human, and sometimes the at-bats have been way too comfortable. The curveball has good action, but it gets hit. The fastball has a little bit of zip at the top, but it gets hit. The split is a work in progress. The slider, the at-bat's way too comfortable, and I challenged him. I looked at him and I said, hey, when are you going to worry, get some guys on the inner half? Your at-bat's way too comfortable. When are you going to get up there and stare at somebody and get mad and bully them with your fastball and start moving it on the inner half, get in somebody's kitchen and put some fear into somebody? He introduced the two-seamer yesterday, which I talked to Pete Walker about, trying to get something on the inner half to right-handed hitters to give him more separation with that breaking ball and get him going with the split. What was so fun about his outing? He threw so many fastballs, was able to locate it, had gone through the first time of the order, primarily heaters. As soon as he needed an off-speed pitch, he had it right behind it because he had laser-locked his hand and arm position in so well with the fastball that when he gripped that split finger, it had great movement. That was the best I've seen his split so far this season.
Nice.
No, it's 3 outstanding starts in a row, and each one getting better than the last. He had the little relief outing against the Yankees and extra innings thrown in there. We'll ignore that one. But 2 of them against the Orioles, which are as good an offense as you can find in baseball right now. And the Angels, not exactly that. But to do what he did against them yesterday, carving them up, 8 strikeouts, just the 1 hit, the home run, the only blemish on his resume. Only 81 pitches there as well, Caleb. Did you think he was coming out for the 8th?
I did. I thought at worst they would go batter to batter so that I mean, he earned it, in my opinion. I thought it was a perfect chance. If you wanted to be conservative, go batter to batter. So if he gives up a solo homer or if he gives up a base hit, you pull him out, and he still has a really good taste in his mouth. But John Schneider wanted to go a different direction and ended up working out. And there was no question that he came out of that game with a really positive outing. And, yes, people are going to say, it's the Angels. They're terrible. You still got to make pitches and starts like this.
They are terrible.
They're not good.
Starts like this. They really do a lot for your confidence in terms of, I just love the attitude and what it looked like, the perception. And sometimes perception's reality. He was grunting. He was letting it go. And, there's going to be a rotation spot in there somewhere, possibly. Yeah. Depends on what Jake Bloss does. But nobody goes with just 5 starters a year. He's got to be an option. He's got to take this opportunity to run with it.
Boy, I'm trying to take Zach Pop serious, Caleb. I just can't do it. What would change my mind?
More north-south movement than east-west movement. There is a difference, and I've said this, and this is one thing about naming pitches that ticks me off more than anything. We say that Zach Pop has a power sinker. When it moves straight down, that is a sinker. When it moves left to right, that is a two-seam. The problem that I have with Zach Pop is that half the time it sinks, half the time it's moving left to right. Yeah. The bat is longer than it is wider. So when you have a runner, which for me is a two-seamer, imagine a ball coming right on the outer half of the plate and just runs horizontally right across the belt. Yeah. That gives the opposing hitter a chance, even if it's slightly low on the barrel, a chance to get a hit. If you have sink and it's moving more north-south, you're going to get choppers. Choppers are outs. Runners can turn into hits. He showed in the first 2 at-bats in his last appearance last night. Yeah. They were sinking. They had no chance. And he loses it because he loses his arm angle and he throws breaking balls. Yeah. So, look, the runway, in my opinion, is shortening on Zach Pop, and Absolutely. I don't want that to be because I love his stuff and I love the possibility that he can be, but he has got to figure out how to get that ball moving straight down, and then you don't have to worry about the slider. You think Clay Holmes really, truly worries about his slider? No, because he has a bowling ball sinker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's got all the arm talent in the world, but for some reason hasn't figured it out. Not for some reason. You just explained exactly why he hasn't figured it out. Yeah. Hey, Caleb, do you know how long it took for you to pick up your 3rd major league hit? How many games?
2.
That's a good question. I know it. No, heck no. No, I know it took like 14 at-bats or something to get my first.
Yeah. Game.
So that's probably 5 or 6 games. I would probably say, remember, I was a defensive specialist.
Yeah.
I was controlling the running game, controlling the staff. I'd say probably 9 games.
It's not a thing anymore.
You had a couple of hits in game number 12, but game number 12 you picked up by hit number 3. Will Wagner 3 in his debut.
12?
12 games. I mean, there was only 11 starts in there, but it's a couple of weeks before you had Will Wagner level of production.
Hey, you got 8 years out of it, so so what? Who cares?
No, there you go.
Yeah, more years than me. There's no doubt about that.
There it is.
But yeah, what does that do for a guy's confidence? First swing in the major leagues, it's a double to right field.
You know, I was thinking about this last night when I saw him in the dugout, when I saw him on the field. There's kind of a look in a player's eyes that you can see that they're not deer in the headlights, but they are a little bit enamored with what's happening. And I was that way. I was just, this is unbelievable. Buck Showalter used to say there is such thing as third deck syndrome, meaning that upper tier, the major league stadium, most minor league stadiums are only 2 decks. And Will Wagner just did not have that look. And he didn't have that look because he's been to a ton of major league stadiums. He has a father who is a borderline Hall of Famer. And he has been there and done that. And those kids are so ahead of the curve because now they're just playing the game. They're only playing the actual game versus playing all the emotions of being on a major league field and being in the clubhouse for the first time and seeing all of these things. He just looked like he fit right in like a glove and did not waste any time right out the gate. My first impressions with kind of his setup, with how simple his move is a little bit of a Joe Panic type. And you remember Joe Panic won a couple World Series with the
final piece to a World Series team.
Not a ton of power.
Yeah. Very high contact, great strike zone discipline, played good enough second base to be an everyday player, made a lot of money, was a Blue Jay in 20.
That's right.
Was very trusted. It's just, I don't know why, but I like doing comparables. And my very first impression was that is a young Joe Panic. And I saw young Joe Panic early in his big league career, and he was a solid major leaguer. So I think if he gets somewhere close to that, that would be a really nice career.
If you're one of the 19 hitting coaches for the Blue Jays, how would you help or just, I don't know, sort of walk Joey Loperfido through the early days of being a Toronto Blue Jay, right? I think that is, I don't know, that's what you're seeing, but it does look like they have maybe introduced him to some things at the plate.
Yeah.
And you can tell when he runs through first base after grounding out, shoulders drag, they sink, the head falls. It's almost like I told you this stuff wasn't going to work. How would you help him?
Yeah, that's really tough. John Schneider was asked kind of this same question before the game yesterday, and he kind of alluded to the fact that there could be days in the future where he gets a total and pure kind of work day. And what I kind of considered that and saw that as was, imagine spring training. Spring training, when the team's on the road, you're not traveling, you're there just getting a good solid work session in, and then when the team's at home, you're playing in the game. Not that he's just going to play on the home and the road. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I could see happening is when he doesn't play, instead of just doing a, quote, normal routine, I could see the Blue Jays hitting consultants and staffs and whatever you want to call them.
19 of them.
I could see them really trying to get in there and start to kind of maybe formulate some adjustments. I do think that there's a lot of tension in his upper body, and you can see his quad muscles, ripping through his legs, which is fine. I think at some point you get to that position where you're engaging the ground and you've loaded up and you are full of tension. But I think to start with that type of tension, I think he's losing a little bit of speed here and there. So remember when George Springer just started kind of relaxing his elbows a little bit and he kind of got a little bit tighter into that launch position, his speed really started to pick back up a little bit in recognition. So there's going to be some stuff that they're going to really want to change. It is so hard to chase results in the big leagues, especially A, as a young player, and B, as a young player on a brand new team. It is really, really difficult because he's trying to make a case to be an outfielder in the big leagues next year. There's a lot going on. I've been there before. I've done that. I've been in that same situation. And it is so hard to fully buy in when you don't get a result first at bat of the first game when you've tried something brand new.
Yeah, you know what a good defender does? They follow their throw. You know what he has issues with is direction with the lower half, right? Whatever the feet do, the upper half follows. It's sort of that thing, right? And the barrel doesn't stay in the zone long enough. You look at his stats when he left the Astros, he's sitting over 320 against the heater. Caleb, you know as well as anybody, I talk to you all the time. It's about hitting the old good number one. Like they just seem to, for whatever reason, want to just overthink that thing till you're blue in the face. That's what I said. Again, I'm not in the room. I'm not in the batting cage. But just by his demeanor and the way he would run through the first base bag when he did put a ball in play. I mean, he's punched out like 16 times already. Yeah. Like he rarely puts ball in.
38.5% of the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's alarming.
That's a big one. It's just the fact it just looks like they are giving him something to do and he ain't buying in. That's what and that's worrisome. It's a big worry for me. Yeah.
Right. And especially, it's one thing coming from the Pirates or something, but coming from Houston where he's been hanging around Bregman, Tucker, he's been hanging around a lot of names, Altuve, that have really done some stuff. And those guys know how to hit and they kind of have their way. And they're established. I mean, they're not those guys aren't going and asking the hitting coach what they need to change. Those guys are going to the youngsters saying, "Hey, man, I see this in your swing. Let's do this." And the hitting coaches are there putting balls on the tee, nodding their heads, saying, "Yep, good swing, buddy. Yep, good swing. Yep, what Bregman said. That's it." And sometimes you need those type of veterans out there that can just kind of simplify it and look at him and say, "Hey, man, why don't you just move the fastball forward any way, shape, or form possible, and your natural ability will come out. Like, don't think about it. Just go be on time for a heater. I don't care if you have to cross-legged it.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do to be on time for a heater, go do that because it was working earlier. We'll worry about all the other stuff later."
Look at a great hitter. They slug on velocity. They destroy it. Like that's every single one of them. How's Vladdy turned the season around, Caleb? You know as well as anybody.
Heater.
Oh, man, he's getting to it. Let me ask you a question. You know, you stick around this game long enough, you're going to hear some things that just make you want to take your head off and punt it. Whenever I heard Bassett talking about the roof closed, you know, somehow that's the first thing I thought of is, boy, you hang around long enough. You're just gonna, and you know me, Caleb, so I get on my text and I'm texting the people I should be texting because I want to say, should I say some bad things about this? And he's like the person that I text, and you know who I'm texting, said basically like everybody else deals with weather, right? When the roof is open, east and west guys, like he is, right? The cutter and the sinker, it's more of a two-seamer, so it's east and west. When it's tunneling the wind, when the roof's open, he ain't got to do a ton. It's just get it started in the lane, let the wind move it. Now it's closed. Our question is, are you shocked that a guy that has 180 career starts in the big leagues has a conversation like this after a game?
Yeah, that was, I think, the most odd/disappointing part because that's kind of the first time that it seemed like a bit of an excuse. And Bassett has been the opposite of that. Bassett pitched a really nice game in New York when his wife was in labor. He got on a jet and then had the birth of a baby.
That's right.
Like what seemed like mere hours.
Gamer.
That could have been an excuse. He got hit with a line drive from Judge in the elbow, went like 6 innings. That could have been an excuse. It was really out of character. I honestly didn't believe that it was a real quote. I had to read it a couple times. It was just so out of character for him. He does anything but make excuses. He's kind of that one guy on the team that will look in front of the camera and say, "That was awful. That was terrible. I did not earn it today. I let my teammates down, and I got to be better." Now, do I think he has a valid point? Absolutely. It was just a little bit odd that he was sharing that part of it because roof open or closed, I do think that mechanically he was a bit out of whack. He couldn't land anything.
Nothing.
And when you can't land anything, and this happens over 30-something starts, you're going to have 4 or 5 that are just stinkers, and you have nothing. It was one thing if he was landing a certain pitch north-south, a curveball, maybe even a split, but he couldn't land anything. And so to hear him say that it raised a few eyebrows.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, it did. It made for an interesting segment yesterday. It sure did. Hey, Caleb, we saw Bo Bichette back in Toronto last week, obviously working his way back from the leg injury. How much do you think he wants to come back and play, make one last go of it during this regular season that's obviously lost, but it's been a horrible one for him? How much do you think he wants to show something on the field at the major league level this season?
Yeah, for sure. Wants to get out there. I actually spoke to Bo for the first time in a couple of weeks, seeing him on the field, and he said one word: bored. And Bo wants to play baseball. He's a baseball player. He wants to get out there, and I can attest. I remember being on the injured list one time in my entire career, and the first 2 days it was kind of nice. It was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I just relax, not have to worry about it. By day 3, I was itching to get on the field. I was just so bored. I wanted to be with the guys, wanted to be with my teammates. And this has been a lingering thing for him to kind of get this calf issue. And it's so unique. Remember Josh Donaldson kind of had some calf issue stuff, and it's like a hamstring in that one day you can feel amazing, and if you over-test it too quickly, it can kind of set you back. So he's been pretty frustrated not being able to really get on the field, and it's been frustrating for him just because he wants to play and wants to be a gamer. And if I'm Bo, even though the season is lost, the team seems to have some energy. The young guys, Stuart Burrow is full of energy. That guy's just he's amped up. I mean, he's taking the NOS drinks and Mountain Dews and whatever. I mean, this guy's hopping all over the field, and You've got guys coming in. Will Wagner getting 3 hits in a major league debut.
Yeah.
Guys hitting their first major league homers. It's a lost season, but they seem to be feeling pretty good, and they're having fun with it. And that's what youth typically does. So I know Bo wants to get in there and kind of join his group. Yeah. But mainly and most importantly, he's got to get healthy first.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for you as well. Tonight's the night, Caleb. Yeah. You're catching a foul ball. You're getting.
Yeah, don't get hurt now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be careful.
Hey,
protect the ball.
Don't ruin that golf game.
When I do, I'm pointing straight to the center field camera, and that's for you two.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, keep dominating, buddy.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah,
keep it up, man.
Enjoy it.
See you later, dude.
You got it.
See ya. The great Caleb Joseph.
The low Profito thing is.
Maybe they need more hitting coaches. Maybe they need 25.
They need one hitting coach. Like they need. They got a lot of different voices in there. You know, sometimes you can just tell by the demeanor of a way a guy walks around, and you know the frustration that he's showing now wasn't the frustration that he showed when he got here, which would basically tell you he wasn't overthinking a ton of things. Now, I think he punched out 16 or 32 at bats like it's half the time. That's went up. I think he's punched out a couple more times since then.
For the season, it's almost 40%.
It's a lot, but it just seems to me like they've given him something to think about. And when you go up there thinking about it, we had Chad Mottola on here, who's the hitting coach for the Rays, and I asked him how he sort of separates the khaki information to just sort of getting it close as see ball, hit ball as you can get. Because if you overthink it walking to the plate, it just ain't gonna work.
Right.
Like it's just hard to do that, right? Things
You're talking about
technique. You
right?
just got to make up your mind. Most of it is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's not so much a mechanical thing.
Game plan you have to think about.
It's a lot. Not really. It's that. No. Most people can't look breaking ball and adjust velocity.
Right.
They can't. That's why it's like the Ernie Clement approach. I'm going to sit velocity. I'm going to get athletic for velocity, and I'm going to have a little pause between when I get my foot down to when I start my swing, which will allow me to adjust barrel to the quadrant that the curveball's coming. It's not the other way around. So if I was sitting curveball, then I'd be 3 days late on the fastball. I don't want to do that. That throws my lower half all out of whack, and now that just sort of screws me up. How's he doing? How's Vladdy looking after he's now looking nothing but fastballs? Like, it's – so it just seems to me like they've given him a little something. Well, I know they've given him something, but it's just, you know, how's he going to take it? How will he take this part of it? I mean, if it's performance-driven, his performance hasn't been real good. So how do you – Will John's coming on tomorrow. We're going to ask him about performance and how much he's reading into what he's seeing with Low Profito. And, you know, the kid's going through it. It's a new team. It's trying to, you know, sort of perform because you see an opening. Ain't nobody else standing out there. They basically stopped playing Davis Schneider so they can play you and left. We'll see how it plays out.
17 strikeouts in 36 at-bats for Joey Loperfido.
Yeah, I would have been sent to Double-A. Like, that's the way the game's changed. Like, when I play, I hate to say it that way because, you know, everybody rolls their eyes about the old guy in the yard and, you know, it's old school. No, it's performance-driven at the big league level.
Yeah.
That's a lot of punchies and not a lot of at-bats.
Yeah. Well, and Caleb mentioned maybe like an easing up on the playing time and giving him like a full workout day. I mean, as easy.
Hey, Caleb ain't going to say that unless he's been told that.
Right.
So.
I mean, as it's never easy, obviously, although, you know.
Looks like they've already
Will
started.
Wagner made it look easy.
Don't it look? That's what I mentioned, that when he grounds out, it looks like they've already started that.
Yeah.
Because they've had days where you pan over there and you don't see him around.
Yeah.
So it seems like they got him working on something. And again, it's just, boy, when you walk in there and there is 8, 10, 12, 19 voices, can you get a heater?
Yeah.
Can you pull velocity in the air? Yes or no?
Well, he's done that, right?
Start there.
Well,
yeah,
so, and
320 fastball. I mean, he didn't like the breaking ball, but who cares? I can teach you how to hit a breaking ball.
So Caleb mentioned, hey, you know, Bowden Francis needs to roll the iPad back on that start whenever he needs a pick-me-up to continue that the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have iPads in your day, but isn't that – I mean, if you're a hitter, you're going through it. Shouldn't Joey Loperfido be looking through his highlights of hitting velocity when he was a member of the Houston Astros to try and get back on track here?
Yeah, I think it's – obviously with his lower half, it looks like Altuve. It looks like Tucker. Where they basically start in one place, they close themselves off by stepping sort of – Altuve is stepping towards the first base bag, and Tucker's stepping towards shortstop. So you're basically cutting yourself off. Basically, that sort of eliminates the length of your barrel in the strike zone and getting through it, right? You want to have that little natural uppercut. That's why Vladdy is starting to get the ball in the air a little bit more, because he's on time. He's making contact with a steep bat path, meaning that path goes right by your face. The last thing you see is your barrel. It ain't like Bo, where it starts way back. That's the first thing you see. So you need to make contact out in front of your front leg. And then you need a natural little uppercut. But the timing has to be there. When you cut yourself off like that, you're out and around. What do? You miss things you should be hitting hard, and when you do hit it, it's on the ground to the pull side. If you read any scouting report about Lopefito, it's the same thing. He's got swing and miss in his approach, and he hits a lot of balls on the ground. Fix his lower half, have better direction, and let the talent take over. I've seen him take batting practice at the Rogers Center. He's got tremendous power. Yeah. It's a ball really far. It's just tapping into that and simplifying it. And you can tell it is a churning. And when it starts churning, it's like the Springer thing. When I asked why it took them so long, and I asked this to John, why the heck did it take you so long to stand his barrel straight up and down and let gravity take over and help him beat the guy to velocity? He's on the back nine. He's getting older. Fast twitch is just not there, right? You need a little, not so much wasted movement. Stand it up, drop it. Easier. I can repeat that. It's that thing, right? How do you get him to where he's buying into a different approach, and now he's 17 punches and 38 at bats, and you're going, no, it didn't work. Now we wipe that clean, and we start over, and now you've lost a spot because, the guys and the people in the front office are going, okay, I got to grade you. I got to find a left fielder or a third baseman, and you punched out that many times. It's hard.
It's not easy to change organizations and, go from however many hitting coaches they have in Houston to the 19 in Toronto. But this is
they got one or two puts a ball on the tee.
Yeah.
And lets Altuve and Tucker and Alvarez and Bregman. And
it's not easy.
That's the combo.
Yeah. All right. We'll see if he's in the lineup tonight against the righty. We'll talk to Mark Gubicza next, former Major League pitcher, Angels TV broadcaster. Game 2 between the Blue Jays and Angels from Anaheim on Sportsnet tonight. It's Blair and Barker, Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Blair and Barker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Jeff will be back on Thursday, but
I
not
don't
before
appreciate
we talk to the manager.
Well, he's sending me photos.
Jeff is? Of what?
I don't appreciate him sending me. He's sending me photos of somewhere where he's sitting.
Yeah, is it nice?
What did he say? I'm Winnipeg watching. He's eating lettuce wraps. Some restaurant.
That's right.
In Winnipeg
watching for us. Lettuce wraps.
Watching us on TV.
I'll just look.
I appreciate you guys watching and listening.
Yeah. Where's my text? No, you didn't.
I mean,
okay.
We're sort of joined at the hip.
Yeah.
Me and him.
Yeah. You guys are the Bobsey twins.
I haven't yelled at him in a while. It's gonna be fun doing it on Thursday.
You haven't really yelled at me in the 6 days I've been doing this show.
No, we're pretty laid back on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, different vibe.
You don't usually fight back.
Is that
he
it?
does.
Oh, is that it?
He usually fights back and usually wrong.
Okay.
Shut up, Jeff. There it is. Like it's got every once in a while you got to set him in his place.
All right. Kevin Gausman started for the Blue Jays tonight. The new and I don't know if it improved Kevin Gausman, but a guy that's going deep into games recently, not exactly striking people out either.
Well, you're just never happy, are you?
I'm
trying to get you fired up. You're just never happy. You want the total package. Cake and eat it too, right?
I've seen it from him, and that's one of the best starters in baseball.
He's thrown a lot. Like a lot of pitches he's released.
Yeah.
Like that's you got to remember that now.
Yeah.
And now it's just consistently it ain't coming out as hot as it used to. Mm-hmm. And now he's having to think his way through against some good hitters, right? How do I get a righty out? How do I get a lefty out? How do I do it 2 or 3 times through, right? Do I add the sinker? Or two-seamer, whichever one you want to call it. Do I add the slider? Like, can I do that with an elevated four-seamer? Can I throw fastballs down? I love that he's gotten back to what he was doing last year. Pitch down.
Yeah.
It's still a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard to be on time, catch it out front with phone booth launch angle, right? Yeah. Everything's happening. Uppercut in the phone booth. If I'm pitching down to different quadrants, gives me a better chance, so I like that part of it. And his velocity's a little bit back. So Fingers crossed he's good tonight, and he goes 6 innings, and he maybe struck out 7 or 8 guys, which will make you happy.
I'm just saying, it's hard to go through life, you know. It's incredible to get through 8 innings against the Orioles. It's hard to do that with only 2 punch-outs. It's what he did last outing.
Absolutely.
Against Carson Fulmer, who's having a good season as well for the Angels. Let's talk to Mark Gubicza, former Major League pitcher, Angels TV broadcaster, joins us from California. How's it going, Mark?
Hey, guys, what's going on there?
Getting ready to watch Game 2 of this series. Close affair yesterday. Well-pitched game by Bowden Francis. But, yeah, that Angels lineup, boy, it's missing big boy in the middle. One of the all-time greats in Mike Trout. And, yeah, his injury struggles this season have been well documented. And who knows? Hopefully he gets back to being healthy and one of the best players in baseball as soon as next season. But without him, and if there's a recent Angels team without him, like, for a while, who's the face of this team without Mike Trout?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Trouty not in there, it hurts. Started off the season actually with a lot of power with 10 home runs. Thought we were going to see him getting close to getting to that 400th career home run at some point, but not being here. I think when you think about the faces of the team right now as far as leadership, Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate is definitely one of those guys. I mean, the guys just respond to a lot of things he says. I mean, obviously, a lot of times when you see a catcher, you think of a guy that's a captain of a team. But between him and probably Zach Neto, who a little different flair. I mean, he went in New York, Yankee Stadium this past road trip, and hit a couple big home runs, including his first career grand slam. Drove in 9 in that 3-game series. So he's got that it factor. So I think those 2 guys, along with Sean Awovo at first base, they got a pretty good core of young players that they feel that they could build around for years to come.
How much do you think Anthony Rendon has to prove? He's got $70 more million left. He's got a little bit left on this year's sort of 35. He makes $35 million a year, which is, just with the lack of playing time and lack of performance, that 7-year, $245 million. What kind of Mark, you know him way better than we know him. You see him, I'm sure, more than obviously we see him. How can he sort of change the mind of the baseball world the next couple years to basically say, you're still a decent player?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because on the media side, you always feel like there's a guarded version of Anthony Rendon. But I was fortunate enough in spring training to be in uniform and be an instructor with the pitching staff, and being around him in the clubhouse and in the dugout and seeing the way that the players, especially the younger players, just gravitate around him on, just trying to figure out how he's been so successful, how he won a world championship there with the Nationals in 19, and how he stays on the baseball well, all those things. But the bottom line is you want to see him out there every day. And he hasn't been able to do that for a number of years now. I thought, in spring training looked great. It looked like there was a lot of positives what you were going for. And then was on the IL twice this year already. So that's the frustrating thing for him and for Angel fans and the team itself, because he's such an important part. He's such a clutch hitter. He's a doubles machine, has been a doubles machine throughout his career, but there's just not a lot of time out there on the field right now. But he had a good series against the Nationals, going back home. It was a really cool reception he received from the fans there. I mean, there was a standing ovation for him there, because they don't win the World Series in 19 without him, what he did in the playoffs, and definitely in the World Series against his hometown team, the Houston Astros. But you got to, you want to see him out there. It's really hard to grade him because he hasn't been out there, but there's still, a couple years left on his deal after this year. And, the Angels need him out there. They need his leadership. They need his, his defense at third base, but you also need to get him back where he's, you can count on 30, 40 plus doubles every season from. Otherwise, it's tough to, not have him that great player that we've seen and anticipated when they signed him.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is injuries. The next question I'm going to ask. It just seems like from afar the Angels don't have an organizational plan. Like they're all over the map with what they're trying to do. Do they, Mark? I mean, you're obviously around the organization way more than we are on a up close and personal basis. Like, I would think they have to start somewhere, right? You're not going to hang all this on Trout. Like, what is the exact plan going forward to make this better?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great point too. I think what you're seeing now, because of a lot of these young players getting a chance to play, and then they have this one kid, Kurkjian, that is drafted. He was 8th overall pick out of Tennessee. They won a championship. college baseball this year, and he's tearing it up in the minor leagues. You might see him up. I think what you're seeing now is finally where the direction is, and they have about 4 or 5 guys, because I worked with a number of them in spring training, that arms that could be, similar to what you see up there with the Seattle Mariners, young power arms. But you still have to develop, and there's no guarantee that's going to happen. But from what I've seen, that's the kind of arms this organization has. So the direction is, in my opinion, is they're going to let the younger players go out and perform and get better. For the beginning of the season, till over the last 60 games maybe, they're 31-29. Now, granted, you still want to be well above 500, but that's still a pretty decent record for over a long period of time. With a number of your younger players getting a lot of significant playing time, and with the ups and downs, so you're seeing more ups as compared to downs early in the season, where Neto and Ohapi and Shawnwell weren't as consistent. Joe Adell is getting close to a potential 2020 season himself. Zach Neto's got a chance to be a 20-20-20 guy with 20-plus doubles, 20 stolen bases, and he's getting closer now to 20 home runs. So there's some guys that really are starting to perform at a level where you start feeling, if you're an Angel fan, there's some light at the end of the tunnel where this team is developing players. But I think staying in that direction, for me, is extremely important, and I think that's what we're starting to see.
Yeah, I mean, those are interesting players, and especially the top 10 pick, and the young players, especially. Mike Trout's in his mid-30s now, and obviously he's not healthy, so it's not a pressing issue at the moment. But he's got over $200 million left on his deal. Mark, could you see a scenario where he doesn't finish his career as an Angel?
No, he's going to be an Angel through his career. I think you're going to see him getting more significant playing time, potentially going forward as in the designated hitter role, which gives him a better chance of staying on the field. And I know it's as a baseball fan, I've known Trouty for a long, long time. I mean, it's fun seeing him out there in center field going over the wall. Remember that catch he made with Jerry Weaver on the mound against J.J. Hardy in Baltimore, where he's halfway over the wall, bringing back a would-be home run. Those kind of things you love seeing. But the most important thing is keeping his bat in the lineup, and that's where we're looking at going forward. I think as a baseball fan, you're going to see Trouty doing that a lot more from the DH. Although historically his numbers haven't been great as a designated hitter. But that being said, there was always the mindset he was always playing the outfield. That's almost a day off, but he couldn't really get acclimated to what you're supposed to do as far as getting ready for a game and each at bat as a designated hitter. So I think the numbers will come in there. I mean, people have already told him, look at David Ortiz, look at Shohei Ohtani, what he's performed as a designated hitter. All the Edgar Martinez and Paul Molitor. Those guys had some injury problems themselves, but they settled in that DH role, and look what kind of careers they end up having all the way over to Cooperstown. So that's what he's thinking. I don't think there's any scenario in the world where Trout is not wearing an Angel uniform for the rest of his career, and hopefully as a designated hitter and maybe some time out in the outfield, you're going to see some great numbers like we saw his first 10-plus years, too.
Yeah, I hope so. I guess it's a pitching question, and you're going to see Kevin Gausman, and the swing and miss lately just hasn't been there, and he's thrown a lot, like you trying to do it with 2 pitches. And, Mark, my question is for you, the older you get, how hard is it for an older pitcher to reinvent himself when what you're used to doing is just not working? Like it's a sporadic. The velocity's a little all over the place. The break is just not consistently there on the pitch that you're used to getting swing and miss on. What's the hardest thing about change for an older pitcher?
The thing for me, the most important thing, and we all go through that as pitchers, is an out is an out. So if you find a way to get the sting off the bat, you get a ground ball and an infielder, or a lazy fly ball and an outfielder, and you can get it done within 2 or 3 pitches, well, then you save that swing and miss pitch when you need it, when there's a guy in scoring position. I mean, I see his numbers. His numbers with his splitter are still pretty solid. I mean, he's got, 56 strikeouts or so with his splitter, and a whip percentage just under 33%, which is down a little bit. But if you save that when you need it, then it's better. So and it's so hard, I think, for guys that are so used to, and in an era where you're rewarded a lot for swing and misses and strikeouts, if you can save those strikeout pitches when you need them most and get quick outs. I even tell that with some of the younger pitchers. Yeah, it looks good when you have strikeouts and swing and miss percentage up high. But if you save that when the guy's in scoring position and you're in that 7th and 8th inning, well, that's when your teammates, your position players will rally behind you because that means you're out there battling all the way to the end. So I've been a big believer that quick outs, and then when you need your best stuff, you save that. And if he does that, I still love the way Gausman pitches. Mm-hmm. But I think if he does that, he'll be even better, more devastating for me if he doesn't try to strike everyone out all the time and save that when somebody's at third base.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, worked in his last start.
Yeah.
8 innings, just 3 hits, only 2 strikeouts, though, against the Baltimore Orioles. Mark, this is great. Thanks for this. Enjoy the game.
Stuff. Thank you so much, Mark.
Hey, guys, I appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to you guys. We're up there in Toronto coming up pretty soon, so I'm looking forward. We're up there for 4 days, which I always love to get to visit that beautiful city.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you.
See you, Mark.
See you,
all right,
Mark.
have a good one, guys.
All right.
Me too. Mark Gubicza, Angels TV analyst and former Major League pitcher.
Yeah.
Worked for Kevin Gausman his last start. The Angels, a different opponent than the Orioles, by which I mean a much easier one because they're not very good. Not very good right now. They weren't very good with Mike Trout, and they are abhorrent without him.
Yeah, they look worse when you locate.
Yeah.
He locates at the bottom of the zone. It'll be like Christmas morning. If he doesn't, no matter who you're facing, because they're big league hitters, they're in the big leagues, most of them dudes can hit mistakes. Yeah, keep it out of the middle of the strike zone. Be efficient. Use that splitter when you're supposed to be using it, and you can sprinkle in everything else. But fastball command will be important.
Hey, we're giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long right here on Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590 590. Standard message and data rates may apply. And our last question was a real brain teaser. This player started his career with Cincinnati, but flourished later with Toronto, where he made the All-Star team 3 times, led the AL 1 year in RBIs with 127. And then Kevin did that, which was like the obvious. I mean, it was already obvious, but it's Edwin Encarnacion, naturally. Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays Angels, as Mark Gubicza mentioned, at Rogers Center. Yeah. Quick succession, quick turnaround, home and home almost.
Yeah.
That's on Thursday, August 22nd. A little tougher. This Angels player won a Silver Slugger Award as a member of the Reds and Padres. And became a Blue Jay when Toronto traded away Jay Happ in 2018. Now, you text that answer to 590 590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590. Standard message and data rates may apply. Anthony Rendon has no home runs.
Yeah, he's awful.
He's
like I hate to say that, and it's rare that I would make that comment about a baseball player, but it's just what he said about baseball turned me off of him.
He said it was not his top priority.
It
wasn't even a priority.
I don't. Once you say things like
$38 million.
35. Once you drop that, I'm not in your camp anymore. So more power to you.
I don't know where you got your info. I got 38.
Maybe I can't see.
I don't know. I got
a lot. How about that? It's making more than he should. Hey, you want to drop that? Try to say that. There you go.
He's hitting 6th in this lineup. And
he'd be leading off for the Jays.
Yeah. Wow, simmer down. Hey, Blue Jays have the same record as the defending World Series champions. How dare you? Yeah.
It's hard to repeat.
It's no question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Trout, as I mentioned.
Anybody saying they want to fire Bochy?
No. But come on.
What do you mean, come on?
Yeah, you won the World Series.
We're giving you $8 million a year. Yeah. We brought you off the couch. We brought you off the fishing, but back to back.
Okay.
Like we paid $1 trillion to get a shortstop, a second baseman.
Yeah, and they won a World Series.
Right fielders
in a brand new ballpark.
We got legit starting pitching.
Yeah. How's that working?
You're supposed to manage us to a World Series again, back to back.
Yeah.
You're one of the worst teams in the American League. Like, that's, again, like, you got to be careful about yelling and screaming about managers.
Yeah.
Might have been
a mistake to, like, pin all your hopes on the guy who's always injured out of your starting rotation in Jacob deGrom. But, yeah, no, they've been abysmal all season long after winning the World Series.
Yeah.
After just getting in last year, too, right? This was not a team that ran away. I mean, it was them. It was the Mariners. It was the Astros battling down the stretch.
Let's be honest. They got lucky by not playing the Phillies. Let's not lie about it.
Yeah.
Like, if it had been the Phillies, it'd have been a different story. You know, the Phillies forgot they had to close and play out another game, right? You know, and the Diamondbacks were the little engine that could and had nothing to play for, right? They were just out there all free and easy.
Yeah.
So you got to, sometimes you got to be a little lucky, which is what they got. They won their World Series. I guess they get their mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I mean, so for every person that's saying it feels like there's a big hill to climb, and you're not one of them. You said that there's...
For the Jays?
Yeah, for the
No, I don't.
Yeah, but for everyone that is saying that, I mean, just look at the variability in baseball one year to the next, whether it's the World Series champions having the same record as the last place team in the American League East, or the Kansas City Royals with fewer than 60 wins a season ago. I mean, they could get into the playoffs and, who knows, be this year's version of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't necessarily think so, especially considering they've built their record almost entirely on a 12-1 record against the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah.
But yeah, baseball. There's no dominant teams anymore, and you don't have to be a really great team to make the playoffs. And if you get into the playoffs, anything can happen, as exemplified by that Rangers team, as exemplified by last year's Arizona Diamondbacks team. The Diamondbacks are much better this year, despite Corbin Carroll having a huge step-back season. He's not been good at all. Anyways, Blue Jays trying to win a series against the Angels before they go to Wrigley Field to play another disappointing team in the Chicago Cubs, who landed the guy that was, potential fit for the Blue Jays. Yeah, what? Cody Bellinger? And he's probably going to hit. Yeah. In what way?
Hitting.
Yeah. You mean not doing that?
Boom.
He could be a free agent again this offseason.
Okay.
Yeah. He's probably not one of those aircraft carriers that you're talking about.
Absolutely not.
So they got the Cubs coming up after this before returning home for another series against the Angels. Against the righty, do you think we see Loperfido in there? We got to see Will Wagner for sure tonight. We don't have a lineup yet. Got to see Will Wagner. I'd like to see Spencer Horwitz in there more, too. I mean, again, he hasn't done anything to play himself out of a job.
Vladdy's played DH 2 days in a row.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll be
Springer
playing
didn't
first.
play yesterday either.
I'm sure he'll play first. I mean, there'll be ways to get everybody in there. Wagner will play. I'm sure Loperfido will play left just because there's a righty on the mound. Like, they're still doing the matchup thing. I'm sure Loperfido did whatever they were asking him to do.
Yeah.
How
about giving a bone to Baroa after the 3-walk outing yesterday?
I guess.
Well, this is what we're talking about this season.
Is it?
I mean, it is. Because these are the guys that are on the active roster at the moment.
Don't get crazy. Like, it's, you got the guys that are obviously like, there's a couple of guys and then there's guys that you really don't know. Schneider's, Loperfido, Wagner, you can throw in there. Like, there's guys, right? There's some unknowns of whether they can be a part of your team going in.
You don't know about Schneider?
No, to make your team, no. I mean, I've heard mixed answers. I've heard we had Buck on, he likes him.
Yeah.
I've heard John Snyder tell me to my face that he likes him.
Yeah.
I don't see that, but they're going through that part of it. Like, they think it's easy adjustment. Well, I mean, it's been a big sample size of him missing heaters.
Yeah.
That aren't up.
Yeah. The reason I was a big fan was because despite the low batting average, he was taking some walks, and when pitchers made mistakes and he, got into a fastball count and he got the fastball, he wasn't missing it.
Yep.
The power has been non-existent for Davis Schneider, and the sample is a lot longer than even a guy like Joey Loperfido. So I think I'm at the spot where he's probably not factoring in a big way next season.
All of those guys with the same sort of weakness, can't be on your team to start the season next year.
Yeah, at least not playing significant roles. Not if everybody's healthy. Need some people that can hit the ball out of the
get it down, get it singing
baseball park. Hopefully the Blue Jays can do that in Game 2 tonight against the Angels. Trying to win a series against a team that's 52-67. That's coming up tonight, 9:30, Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Be back tomorrow with another edition of Blair and Barker. Ben Ennis in for Jeff Blair. Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet.